you thought zombie cells would be in a bad movie or a overly popular zombie apocalypse TV show, right? What it sounds like, but actually zombie cells have been around since the 60s. They've been around forever. They're a major part of aging. We just didn't know about it until the 60s. They're not that new. They're also called senescence cells or senescent cells. So we'll talk about those in just a minute, where they are, who's doing work on them. Guys at Mayo have been doing a lot of work on them. They've actually got a medication for them, but it's not quite ready for prime time, at least in terms of prevention. And we'll talk about why in just a minute. But before we do, just a brief introduction to the series. This is part 8 of a series on lifespan by David Sinclair. David Sinclair is a PhD researcher at Harvard in aging. He's been into aging for a very, very long time. And he covers a lot of the things in his book, his new book, Lifespan, that I cover in my channel. So I've been having a blast doing this series, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. He goes into a lot of the basics and talks about his own theory of aging, the information theory, where basically we begin to lose our epigenetic functions, our ability to access information that's still within our DNA. It's the same DNA that we had in our 20s, but for some reason we just can't access it as well. He also talks in the book, this image right here is from his book, it's the hallmarks of aging. And again, we mention many of these things in the channel. He discusses them in the book. For example, deregulated nutrient sensing, altered intercellular communications, loss of proteostasis, stem cell exhaustion, mitochondrial dysfunction, epigenetic alteration. Again, that's really deep that's probably the most popular theory right now, and it's very much related to his information theory. Genomic instability, and of course, cellular senescence. We're going to talk about cellular senescence now in this video. This prescription drug bottle that you see called Sprycel is dasatinib. It was developed by folks at Mayo. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let's go back and talk about the history and a little bit more about what we know about them, what we've seen in terms of senescent cells. They were discovered in 1961. Macrophages are more commonly noticed and studied as senescent cells, but you can see it in multiple tissue types. The cell actually shuts down. Its processes like epigenetics. Some people say it's like a grumpy retiree cell. Now, what this shutdown does is it protects it from DNA damage. So therefore, there is actually some theorized purpose to these senescent cells. Shutting down your epigenetics will protect your cell from cancer. So that appears to be one of the functions of senescent cells. Another function appears to have to do with healing. On the other hand, though, this is an inflammatory process. It sends out cytokines. And you may remember, cytokines are cyto, meaning cell, kines, meaning attractants. So it attracts immune cells to come to this area and start creating inflammation. That's what immune cells do. So it recruits other cells in terms of this grumpy retiree process as well. Now, Sinclair described the blue galactosidase stain in these zombie cells. Mayo researchers removed these cells in mice, and the mice lived 30% longer. And again, they removed them with a couple of different methods. One of them, dasatinib, an immunoglobulin, plus quercetin, which is a chemical from onions, wine, green tea. And that medication now is used for leukemias. It's, again, more of a heavy-duty medication than I think anybody's going to want to take for prolonging life. Now, do I supplement? No. Obviously, I clearly don't try to supplement with Sprycel, but I do a couple of other things. I do fasting. I do extended water fast 2 days every week. This is a Tuesday, by the way, when I'm recording this, so on my second day of an extended water fast. I also have, I would say maybe 3 to 5 glasses of wine per week. I have onions, garlic, green tea. So I do think I get my quercetins naturally. I don't take dasatinib, as I said. Now, just back to one overall statement. Remember, it's cellular aging, not organ-related disease, or juventude, as Walter Longo put it in his book, The Longevity Diet. So again, medicine's arranged wrong. We don't need to be spending years and years focusing on a heart, years and years focusing on a brain, and never look at the rest of the body, because these diseases don't start from the heart or the brain. They start in the cell. They start in biochemistry. We need much more of a metabolic focus on disease and prevention and longevity. Thank you very much for your interest. My name is Ford Brewer. I started off my career as an ER doc, and that can be frustrating because most of the things bringing patients into the ER can and should be prevented, like heart attack and stroke. So I went to Johns Hopkins for training in prevention, did well, ended up running the program, trained dozens of docs there, and have trained hundreds and even over 1,000 doctors since then in preventing disease. What's even more important is I've helped thousands of patients prevent heart attack and stroke rather than waiting for the devastation and hoping for a cure.